Hello everyone, this is Crota giving you a shoutcast between Empire's Kaz and Millennium's Adel here on Terminus Ray. We have Adel spawning as the orange Protoss player. Meanwhile, we have Adel spawning as the orange Protoss player. Meanwhile, we have Kaz spawning as the red Terran. So Adel at the 6 o'clock location. Meanwhile, Kaz at the 9 o'clock location. And one of the things to mention about Terminus Ray is that it is a very large map with a lot of walking distances in between the bases. And because of this, I'm expecting this to be a longer game than normal, perhaps more macro, unless someone's actually willing and to wager and risk a very early all-in pressure or tactic. So we'll see what's going to be happening in just a moment. Production tab is now up for you guys so you can see what's happening. Both players pretty much am hanging on to that very standard build order, nothing too out of the ordinary. One of the things I like about Terminus Array is that there's this third expansion down over here, a very natural third base which is easy to protect in that it shares a common choke point. But there is also a set of destructible rocks here, and then if you try to, I don't know why this doesn't happen more often, but a lot of players should just, instead of trying to defend this location, try to defend this location. The actual ramp point is not that much larger. When you take a look at it, it may actually be a little bit smaller, in fact, and you'd be able to keep track of what's happening much more easily. Back over here, we see Adel just warping in that gateway. It has us in the simulator. There's that standard build order. I was going to say he needs to be able to pylon for that to be the typical economic build order that most Protoss players go. Meanwhile, Kaz is sticking to his standard build as well. And will he be training an additional SCV, or is he actually going to upgrade to an orbital command first? I'm not 100% sure. Kaz is going to upgrade to an orbital command first as a Marine now being trained. Some Terran players like to get up into 16 SCVs before they upgrade to an orbital command. I haven't studied the numbers well enough to know what is the better in terms of the long run, but I would assume that the orbital command earlier does give you a significant advantage. Kaz now getting a Marine over here, does have these supply depots here, and we'll see what's going to be happening. Need to close windows. Okay, so apparently it's starting to rain wherever Kaz was, so he needed to close the window, and there you go. So now Adel is going to just train up that one Zealot, be able to intercept this one SCV, and I'm surprised. There we go. There's that Reaper. I was going to say I'm surprised that there isn't a Reaper just quite yet, but there is that early Reaper. That early Reaper is very effective, especially on a map like this where there are multiple ways to get inside your base. There is the main ramp here, but then there's this Reaper entrance or Colossus entrance right here that allows you to get in and out of your base very easily. I also think that this fourth base is much easier for Protoss players to defend, as Colossi are able to walk down this ramp very easily, and then also the Protoss player has that ability to use those warp gates and just deposit those units straight into the field, making the map feel a little bit more smaller and not forcing how the Terran player has to just try to walk around the map in order to get units in transition. The Reaper now going to make its way up that ramp and then see that it is in fact down over here. His opponent is, and now perhaps going to try to get some damage with this early Reaper. This Reaper now getting some damage onto those probes. One probe already down. A second probe, no additional probes have been taken down yet. There you go, there's two probes, so already worth it so far. Getting 3 probe kills, and now trying to run away, and now he has to be very careful, trying to dodge that Zealot, and somehow able to do so, but he's not going to be able to dodge a sentry, and there it is. So that one Reaper able to get off 3 kills, and significant against those early probes, trying to even up the economic advantage because probes do have that chrono boost ability, or the Nexus does have that chrono boost ability, and we do see a large amount of energy on that Nexus saved up. Not quite sure why Adel was not chrono boosting probes throughout the beginning of the match, as that would have significantly given him a stronger economic advantage. Adel sitting at 34 over 52 food, meanwhile Kaz sitting at 28 or 29 over 35, as the command center now being established as well. We are getting, the factory is still over here, and now we are going into early Banshees. So Kaz now trying to use these early Banshees to get some damage, and we'll see what's going to be happening, especially as Adel already has a probe lying in wait, ready to set up a proxy pylon over here, and then put a lot of early pressure, and that is definitely going to be the case. We see that ground armor upgrade. And whenever you see early ground armor upgrade, you also want to keep track of how many sentries You see coming in from Adel, and Adel currently sitting on only 1 sentry, but I assume more sentries will be warped in. As I say that, he warps in a Zealot just to fool me. Only running off of 1 gas though, so perhaps he isn't trying to go for mass sentries with Guardian Shields like I originally thought. But Adel does have a significant economic advantage. He is mining off of more mineral patches as a Banshee now on the move, but the only issue is that by going for that 4-gate build, he did forego an observer, so this photon cannon needs to be built in a hurry. You can already see it's at 24 damage, 23 damage there. The Banshee now trying to come in. The Banshee does not have cloak research just quite yet. Trying to get some damage onto that Banshee. The Banshee down to 80 hit points, over 140, as the Banshee going to perhaps try to test the waters in a different location. Adel, noticing that there was Banshees, now canceling his building and now instead going for a robotics facility and warping in a photon cannon at his natural expansion. He does not want to get caught out of position. You can see the Banshee, has cloaked now, going after that sentry. The sentry now trying to hide away, and we are going to be getting 1 photon cannon up in just a moment. That cannon, only with a range of 7, should be able to give sight though, and now Kaz has to run away with that Banshee, and barely able to dodge that last shot there. There is 1 fresh Banshee over here, so this Banshee now just putting as much pressure as possible, trying to get as much damage as possible, as this Banshee now going to come in perhaps to try to come in as a reinforcement. Another probe has been taken down, and this Banshee has to be very, very careful. 1 Banshee does get taken down as the photon cannon was able to reveal it, and now this cloaked Banshee just trying to get as much damage as possible. Those Stalkers able to get some damage, but the Banshee will be able to run and fight again another day. In the resources lost, it is about 700 to 350. But taking a look at the units and the army size, you can still see that it's about even, 63 over 76 compared to 66 over 70, and that's also because a lot of units are currently being trained. A 3rd base now coming in from Adel. Adel looking to just continue his mass expansions and trying to get up a strong economy so that those Banshees do not deal that much economic damage to him. And now the Banshee looking to deal more damage. 1 Banshee now trying to fight toe-to-toe against a Stalker, but the Stalker with 1 base armor takes reduced damage. Instead of taking 22 damage per shot, takes 20 damage per shot against the non-hip or the non-shields of those units. And now Observer is out. A Banshee quickly tries to cloak and realizes that an Observer is there as those Stalker shots were able to find him. Kaz now going to push in with a very decent size of Marauders and Marines, and this Stalker army just going to get completely wasted. That is a really, really bad sign right there, as the medevac now trying to come in as well. Zealots are already in position as well. Zealots do not have charge as they run away, just taking even more and more damage. That is not looking good, as the Marauders and the Marines are using Stim pretty sparingly, but dealing a lot of damage as well. There's only 1 medevac, and there's the force field trying to trap any of those units from being able to escape. 2 photon cannons once again, and this robotics facility will get destroyed without any real issue there. Another photon cannon gonna get denied as well, as the Marauders and the Marines perhaps trying to make their way down to the low ground, getting some damage onto the back of that Zealot. That Zealot doesn't stand a chance, but the Marauders and the Marines decide to back off. A fresh group of 2 medevacs plus Marauders and Marines regrouping with this very, very strong team, and that is definitely going to be an issue. Medevac now trying to heal up the remaining units, but are not going to be able to do so all that well. Units are coming in to reinforce, and now Adel is pretty much at the tipping point. If Kaz is able to continue his pressure and perhaps deny this expansion, things will be much, much more worse off for Adel, as Adel now trying to fend off against this attack over here. A pylon gonna get easily destroyed, as this cannon also destroyed as well, and now nothing coming over. No, Zealots and Stalkers trying to engage. There's that 1 Guardian Shield. The Marauders and the Marines getting some early damage onto those probes. Those units are now all destroyed, as the medevacs are getting dangerously low on energy. Kaz is in a very dominant position so far. The Marauders and the Marines need to use another round of Stim in order to get that distance, and it looks like that distance will be coming in just a moment. Able to snipe down multiple Zealots, but the Stalkers are now finally being picked off, as the Zealots are all gone, and only Marauders and Marines are left. Marauders now trying to come back in as well. Another sentry destroyed, but I believe Kaz has more than enough of a lead now to take it into the late game and try to put the final nail in the coffin. He is going to be regrouping, retraining medevacs. The medevacs are only being trained off of Tech Lab, so it is not double training medevacs. Very interesting, as Kaz desperately needs those additional medevacs. He is very low on hit points on a decent number of his units, and getting them back up to full life should be his #1 priority. 82 over 92 for Adel, 108 over 161, as a 4th base now being established by Kaz. The 3rd base once again being rebuilt by Adel, as both sides warp in those crucial technical buildings and try to see what they can transition into. Adel now has almost near full energy on his Nexus. He needs to really be careful and try to start chrono boosting those warp gates, otherwise he's going to be stuck there. He's going to have stuck energy, and he's not going to be able to warp into units nearly as quickly, as the cooldown is always one of the weakest things about the Protoss army. Marauders and Marines now making their way over as well, and it looks like they are going to stim in once again right as that Nexus is about to be completed, and I believe it may get shut down. No, not shut down, as the Marauders trying to dodge any of those force fields, and now the Marauders having a little bit of a benefit by knowing that his opponent cannot squeeze through that area very, very easily, getting a lot of damage, turning around back and forth. Marauders or Marines just using that stutter step, getting multiple shots off, and continuing to deal more and more damage. Stalkers now in a bit of trouble, as the Stalkers are in the very, very far back. The Marauders now finally turning on them, as I thought they would. And now the Zealots also kind of come in and trying to engage. But in comes Adel once again with a very large army force and able to push that attack back once more. Army-wise, 1450 versus 1350. Income-wise, we are sitting about the same size or similar size armies, but there's a 600 mineral resource difference between these two players at this time. Planetary Fortress also coming into play as well. That Planetary Fortress will be able to fend off against the sheer heavy number of Protoss gateway units that we've been seeing from Adel, and I would like to see Adel try for something new. Adel has pretty much been sticking to the strategy throughout this matchup, and it's not working out well for him at all. Marauders and Marines are upgraded 1-0, 2-0, or 2-1 upgrades underway, as an observer is just watching the main majority of that Terran army just walk around. Reinforcements once again coming in, and now with 4 medevacs and a whole bunch of Marauders and Marines. This may be it. This may be a very devastating force, just being able to walk in and perhaps try to finish his opponent. We do see that there is another Nexus being established over here, as the battle now ensues. The Marauders and Marines trying to keep their distance away from those Zealots. The Zealots are the real main issue at this time, as the Zealots are now just charging in and getting a lot of damage across those Marauders. The medevacs once again trying to pull away, but they're just simply getting destroyed, as the Stalkers now in full retreat. Another Stalker now sniped down. As soon as one Stalker gets hit by one concussive shell, the rest of the Stalkers are pretty much in trouble, as they should perhaps just turn around and try to engage. Stalkers looking and able to take down that one medevac there, as Kaz now in full retreat and tries to regroup. So yes, we have Adel with an expansion over here at the 3 o'clock location. Meanwhile, we have Kaz sitting here at the 12 o'clock starting location with another expansion. So we are currently sitting at 4 base play by Kaz, who's expanding into his 5th, against Adel, who only has 3 base play right now and is now warping in a new Nexus. Back over here, we do see 1 Marine, but the Marine is not going to be able to spot very much at all. Just a sea of probes and Stalkers now trying to make their way out. Marauders and the Marines once again going to push forward here, and it looks like a lot of damage could be dealt. Marauders are upgraded 1-1, and a lot of damage should be coming out in just a moment. Observer now making their way over, and now going to get destroyed there. Kaz with 5 SCVs restarting this and also building another orbital command, as the main bulk of Kaz's army now looking to push in and push down damage onto Adel. And now here comes the battle we've been waiting for. The Zealots now trying to warp in, unable to finish warping in. 3 of those Zealots were unable to warp in essentially from that battle, as the Marauders and Marines continue to push their way forward, able to snipe down another Nexus and perhaps a couple probes. That is always a very, very dangerous proposition, as the Marauders and the Marines are now trying to get some distance back away from those Colossi. The Colossi have already been sniped down, but still plenty of sentries and stalkers, nothing more than what the Marines can easily handle, able to finish that off, and now we see Kaz pulling away once more. Kaz now making their way up into the center portion of the map here. Stalkers are getting destroyed. Marines now trying to give chase. Another round of attacks, and now the Zealots are in trouble, as the Zealots are now going to start to get slowed. As they get slowed, they're just going to take even more and more damage as they are just falling to the wayside here. So another probe, or another Zealot now taken down, and another Zealot bites the dust there. We are having a proxy, or no, Zealots now, or Stalkers now warping in over here, blinking in along that backside, getting a lot of damage across multiple SCVs, and still a lot of SCVs have still been destroyed. Down goes another one, and this is still looking to be a very, very dangerous game. But meanwhile, back over here, the main majority of the fight, as I rewind, the Marauders and the Marines were able to clear out those destructible rocks and then once again push into this location. Marauders and the Marines able to just deal a lot of damage there, snipe down the Nexus, and as the Marines walk up this ramp, I believe that is going to be GG, as there's just way too much infantry, and there it is. There's the GG by Adel. So Kaz taking game 1 in the series between Poker Af Kaz and Millennium's Adel here in the Zelnaga Caverns.